Miss G. Shelton, and we have two members of our advisory board. We have the chairwoman, Miss Susan Smith. Susan's been with us for 5 years now.
Maybe longer than
It's
that.
been longer than that because I've been there since 20
19.
October of 2019. So,
And Susan came right after that.
I came before that.
she was there when I got there, yeah.
Okay. My, how time flies when we're.
Yeah.
But Susan is the chairman of our advisory board. Our newest advisory board member is Miss Sherry Deaton. We welcomed Sherry this past fall, and so, she's up and running, and she serves as secretary for the township. And our newest member to the team is Miss Blake Newkirk. Blake will be handling our streaming and our electronic media interactions for the township. So that's the team. So you have a brochure before you. You have my business card. And what we attempt to do this evening is to help clarify what it is the trustee's office can do. And to even mention things that the trustee's office can't do, that people wish we could do. So on your brochure, if you'll open it up to the panel that says Community Service Provider, what can the Addison Township Trustee do for you? It's highlighted the things that we do. We can pay rent and mortgage assistance. We can pay gas, electric, and fuel oil assistance. If someone passes away, they don't have any insurance or family, we do what's called a pauper burial for a poor person, and it's cremation. And we've worked with Glenn George, we've worked with Mike Freeman, we've worked with Greg Parks. The 3 funeral homes here in the city realize that if they have someone who is indigent, they're going to be cremated, and the township is going to incur the expense. We also help with prescriptions. So we can get someone their prescription, a 30-day supply of their prescriptions, diabetic supplies, blood pressure, whatever it is they're on, if they can't pay for it and they don't have the insurance. And then finally, we do emergency food orders. We get individuals, mostly after fires or sometimes natural disasters, where they just don't have money to get food to eat, and they may have children or they may have others in the household. And so we do emergency food orders. Those are the things that we can do by statute, that's it. We can't pay water bills, we can't pay security deposits, we can't pay reconnect fees, we can't pay late charges. We can't do any of those things. And we get individuals referred to our office for things like, well, my tire blew out, I need a tire. Trustee's office, we can't help with a tire. Now, we may try to direct you somewhere where you may be able to get that form of assistance, but we can't do that, And so, the best thing that we can do for you all who are landlords or who are property managers and engage with individuals is to know what it is we can do and what we can't, so that they aren't being referred. We had 2 referrals this week, Jeannie,
Yep.
for car repair assistance. And we can't do that. Now, if you look on the panel that says population and economics, this data came from 2024, the 2024 census data. And what stood out the most to me is the poverty rate, income and the poverty rate. So the poverty rate in Addison Township, where we're all at, 1 in 5 persons is in poverty. Now, realistically, that second person is on the cusp, okay? And then a third person may be 1 paycheck away from being in poverty. And so now you're talking about 60% of the persons in the township that may fall at the poverty level or before. That's very telling, because if you'll notice, the median household income was under $60,000, it was $58,009. So there's not a lot of money out there. We know in this community there are homeless folks. We know in this community there are folks that are extremely challenged, having to choose between rent, insurance, or food. And so we try to assist, and when they qualify, which Jeannie has put our income guideline qualifications on the center of each table, when they qualify for assistance, we want to give the greatest amount of assistance we can. Because if it's the choice between a rent assistance or utility assistance, we strongly suggest rent assistance, because you'll get more assistance from the township office. On utility assistance, you get the most recent 30 days. So you may have an $800 Duke Energy bill, but if your last 30-day billing was $189, the township's going to pay $189. And so now you still have that balance with Duke Energy. And so we would assist, but we also try to look and direct individuals to other forms of assistance. We used to have human services that was here in the community. They seem to no longer be here. They're in an office in Hope. I don't know whether they've got office hours for Shelbyville and Shelby County, but they would get their allocation of funds from the federal government October 1st. And by the first week in November, they've gone through all of their funds. Because they will help with everything. They will pay reconnect charges, they'll pay disconnect charges, and they will, whatever your total bill is, they'll pay. Now, they don't help a lot of people because it's first come, first served. And so when you get to human services and you get a $1,200 bill, they'll pay the whole $1,200. So, it's important to take a look at these figures. The median home value, $178,600. Jeannie and I think that these numbers are very conservative, because here we are in the latter half of 2026. I think it's much higher. I think, the median rent is much higher. You all would know more about that than I would. $994. I think it's much higher than that for the median. But again, please remember, these were 2024 numbers, and we're 2026 going into 2027. So I believe that number is probably closer to 1,100,
I'd say higher, yeah.
1,200.
I'd say probably closer to 13 and up for livable homes. You'd be shocked at what I hear back from people as feedback as a landlord when they come to me. I'm a mobile home community, so when they come to me, they're like, I can buy a house for this here, as opposed to renting something not even half as nice for $1,300, $1,400 a month. So I'm blown away by what feedback I get from the community on how high things are really, and landlords, not all, some simply don't care. They know they can get it.
Agreed.
And they're going to.
Agreed. And again, I need you all to understand that 994, or even if we go to 1,300, it's a median, because we know that there are higher rents, but then we know there are some landlords that are only charging $600. And I mean, and they've had a tenant who's been with them for many years, and they've taken good care of the property. So again, that figure is an average of lows to high, but again, $994,000 is probably 1,200 or more. So there are people in our community that are in dire situations as it relates to housing. What I can tell you, the advisory board and I and Jeannie are going to look at our January meeting of increasing the amount of assistance we can provide. Because right now it's capped at $400, and $400 is not a lot So that's something else that we're gonna take a look at. Within your guide, we've got on the final panel, miscellaneous resources. And if you all are in property management or if you're landlords, you know, you have people who have all types of needs, you know. I recall a young lady that came to the office, not only did she need rent assistance, she needed food assistance, and she needed diapers for children. She had a newborn and she had a toddler. And so I was really hoping that Love Inc. would be here this evening, because they are like the conduit to direct people to different resources. And supposedly there's a diaper ministry within Shelbyville and Shelby County. But that's how we need to direct people to other resources that are available. I know I attend Second Baptist Church. I know that First Baptist Church has a food pantry. So when we have people who are in need of food, we direct them to First Baptist Church, and I think it's the second and fourth Saturday of each month, where they provide food to individuals who are without. So we hope that you'll take this, keep it, it's a nice resource guide. If you could be so kind as to, if you know that there's a bad number on there or a bad address, let us know so that we can update this. Because Jeannie, how many things do we have returned?
I got back 4 today, but I sent everybody 2. I sent everybody 2 invitations. I did get back 4 today. 3 of them were from the first batch, 1 of them was from the second batch. Who knows what I'll get tomorrow? But I double checked the addresses and they were all correct. They all said just unable to be delivered. So we have an issue with our mail anyway, so,
And I don't think we're alone with that. I think
No,
other people are having challenges with the US mail system too.
yeah.
But again, we wanted to have this gathering, if you will, to help disseminate information, you know, and connect with you folks who are dealing with the constituents that eventually do come to our office. You know, so what I'd like to do now, I'd kind of like to open it up. If anybody's got issues or they've got people who have had issues and you want to present that, we can see how we can deal with that. Or if you have any questions about what it is we do, how we do what we do, we'll take those questions now.
If somebody is needing assistance and you provide them assistance, say 6 months down the road, they're having trouble with something else, is there a limit per person? Can they apply it again, or?
Yeah, once you get assistance through Addison Township office, that's one-time assistance for a 12-year calendar month. 12-month calendar year.
Yeah.
And so,
I understood all of that still.
I get tongue-tied every now and again. So if we help someone today, July 24th, they're not eligible for assistance until July 24th, 2027.
And that's really important, like, especially like with an apartment. If you have someone, if you have 2 people that live together and they get assistance together at apartment 1, and then they move separate to apartment 2 can't get assistance because that person was on that application. So, and a lot of times people, I don't say they're trying to pull one over, they're just trying to see what they can do. So, we're just, and we have software where we put them in the system and it will tell me, you know, oh, this person has been, it will also say this person has received assistance from another county within an X amount of time.
And also, when Love Inc. comes more online, once they get into their new facility, you know, that sharing of data and information, hopefully will be somewhat seamless. You know, and we'll be able to know, and they'll know, because what individuals were doing, they would come to Second Baptist Church, and they would get assistance. They'd go across the alley to First Baptist Church, they'd get assistance. They'd go out to Crossroads and cry the blues, and they'd get assistance. And so, you know, they're nitpicking. And And if we didn't do once in a calendar year, Jeannie would have the same repeat constituents every month. If I know that the trustee's gonna pay, you know, a portion of my rent, you know, I'm gonna spend this other at the Horseshoe, or I'm gonna go, and always at Christmas, I'm always amazed at Christmas. We will have a large number of people who need assistance for their January rent. Now, they may have paid their December rent, you know, but then Christmas came around and now they can't pay their January rent. So we do that, and it's very cyclical. Kids will be going back to school in what, less than 2 weeks? Okay, and so if there are school fees, school supplies, clothes, what have you, they will take care of that. And so we may be hit with a lot of need in rent and mortgage assistance come August. And we see that, I mean, it goes up. You can almost pick the times that it's gonna go up. When the moratorium ends on utility disconnects, like in March, around March 15th, we get people who contact the office. I've got this Duke Energy bill and they want all of their money. You know, and I mean, I saw one that was $2,700. The person had not paid their light bill from November, December, January, February, and now it's March. But now Duke wanted their money because they couldn't shut them off during the winter.
Duke is infamous, for putting people also on budget, and they'll do a yearly budget, and then at the end of the year, they want $2,200.
They want the balance, yeah.
So
They
like,
just do that to most of my people who are eligible for energy assistance.
So,
I'm a little concerned about that.
let me give you a little bit of advice on that, because it happened to me, and I was like, it happened to me personally, when I moved into a new place, the people before me didn't tell me that their AC was broken, so when I moved in, I got my AC fixed and I was running it, because it was summertime, and then a year later, when my bill came up, they were like, oh, you're short, and I was like, okay, because they based it on what they were paying, not what I had. So, I moved my budget to quarterly, so every 3 months, I have to catch up, and it's a smaller amount. Sometimes my bill goes up for the next 3 months, but if I'm short, it's a smaller amount versus a year where they want it all. And then also if you do it quarterly, like they'll raise your next bill instead of demanding a lump sum. So I would suggest that to your constituents or to your tenants, to do a quarterly, budget with Duke. And they typically, it's weird, but when Duke, when it's budget time, we have an influx of people wanting help, because it's like, they don't really tell you, hey, your year's gonna be up on this date. Like, I feel like it should be on your bill.
But
Hey,
it's not.
next month, be aware, or that does a running total so you can see. So maybe you get a tax check and you're like, oh, I'm short. You have the option to pay it. Also, they won't let you do that. But that would be nice also, so people can decide that they can't. So they're handed a giant bill and they're on oxygen. They have someone who's got just medical things and they have to have the electricity. So they have to make a decision, do I eat or do I breathe?
And I mean, it's a great question, but if we didn't do that, we would have what we call frequent flyers, every month.
And this is how true it is. I have people who write down the day that they can apply again, and they call me the next year, on the day.
I have a question.
Yes.
So I have, periodically, when I do have people that I try to assist with, a lot of times, I know it's silly, but I try to sit down with them also and try to help them learn how to budget. Especially like for me with their lot rent, I don't have rentals, but they do have to pay lot rent. So I'll be like, hey, if you're ahead of the game, why not pay an extra $100 here or an extra $50 here? And so when those harder months do come around, especially the holidays, because we all know people are gonna buy gifts for their children
Absolutely.
and grandchildren. And I used to be one of those as well, and worry about it in January, way back when. But I will sit and work with people, especially my younger folks that come in, because they really don't know how to budget. And be like, hey, let's do this, and you've got this coming out, let's do this. My boss thinks it's amazing that I do that, But to me, in the long run, if I don't have to chase you down, then we don't have any problems. And you can stick around a whole lot longer. My question, sorry. So St. Vincent de Paul is an organization that will assist people, but only after they have applied or been denied with you.
Yes.
Are there other organizations that are structured that way as well, or is it just the St. Vincent de Paul?
As far as I know here, it's just St. Vincent de
Okay,
Paul.
I didn't know, I've only dealt with trustee in St. Vincent.
Their invite was one that got returned, and I tried to call them, of course, you have to leave a message.
Yeah.
And I tried to call my contact from there, and it was no longer a working number. But I have their card, if you guys would like to take a picture of it, so you also have their information. A lot of times they will call me and they'll say, hey, did so-and-so call to apply with you? Because they're asking, and they're saying that you haven't, that they didn't qualify, and I'm like, I've not heard their name.
Yeah.
I've not, talked to them, or sometimes I'm like, yes, they did call them, you know, but they do verify that they have come to us first. And I think it's because they have less guidelines.
They help a lot.
They do help
They really
a lot. It's all volunteer, and that's what I tell people, they're like, I called and I had to leave a message. Well, of course you did, because it's volunteer, and they'll call you back as soon as they can. But I think because they help so many people, they're trying to, you know, get some relief by letting us help first. So, and I think they try to help the people that we can because of that financial guideline.
And your point is a very valid point. So when I first came into this position after my father passed away, I thought it'd be a great idea to help people understand budgeting. You know, somebody comes in and they get $800 worth of food stamps, and by the 25th of the month, they're out. And they're not gonna get food stamps again until the 5th or the 7th of the next month. And so I thought it was a good idea. I had some friends in the banking industry that were willing to provide free of charge budgeting sessions. And the State Board of Accounts wrapped me over my knuckles and said, you will not, you cannot, you shall not ever have a situation where it seems conditional for them to get assistance. I said, no, they're gonna get assistance, but they don't understand how to best utilize the assistance. Can't do it.
Yeah.
So we've never been able to do that, you know, and I mean, like you said, if you get a tax check or you get some type of windfall, why not pay a little ahead? You know, if you know that your gas bill is going to be like $50 from May through October, why not pay $100 every month if you can? Because that way, then when it gets November, December, January, February, you'll be ahead and you won't have this, you know, large bill to pay. But again, we couldn't do that.
Treat it as a Christmas club,
Yes.
if you will.
But even if we tried, like, hey, we're going to sponsor this budgeting session, and anybody's welcome to come, it's open to the public, the attendance would be like it is today. People don't want to be told to do what to do with their money. It's also like when, on a question on our application is, are you receiving child support? No. Will you go to court to receive child support? I'm just reading. And they're like, well, no. And I'm like, why? Well, because we have it worked out. He helps me when I can. And I'm like, well, 6 o'clock on a Friday, and you don't have your rent. Maybe you should call. You know what I mean? Like, you're not, they're not, but, and the only thing I can say is, well, you know, we can require you to go down and fill out the application. Because if you want taxpayer money, you need to do your due diligence with your own financial self. So, that's usually what I suggest to them. I'm like, well, they'll say, I don't know how. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't know how either, because I've never had to do it, but I'll help you. Or I can give you I have Google, I can look up the number to child support office and you can call them and figure it out. But a lot of times I tell them, you know, the trustee could, I mean, it's on the application, he could come back and say you need to file for this before we file for assistance.
And that, you know, again, we talk about what we do. Our office is designed to provide assistance, but by state statute and guidelines, if you don't have a valid ID, I can refuse you. if you have not requested child support and you've got minor children, I can deny it. If I do provide assistance, we can require you to pay it back. Now, I don't wanna do that because I don't, it's hard enough taking care of the money that we have going out. It'd be a nightmare than trying to receive it back in, so, we don't do it. But people need to understand that there are trustees that do that, and they can do that. And a lot of times people, think that we kind of make things up as we go. There's a little latitude in the guidelines on what you can and can't do. But we try to stick to the guidelines, especially as it relates to what forms of assistance we will do.
And also, when State Board of Accounts comes in to audit us, they're like, okay, so we wanna see all your applications from January 16th till May 5th. And I gotta pull them all, and they look at every single one of them. So if I haven't filled out the correct something on any of them, or they pull the license, and they're like, oh, well, you gave assistance to, Joe, and it says he lives on Southwest Street, but the address that you gave assistance to was at Lower Commons, like that, what happened here? And then it falls back on me, because I didn't do my job, and ultimately, it falls back on the trustee, because he told me to write the check.
And I understand that people don't update their license.
Ever.
Yeah,
but-
mine is still not updated.
But we had someone that came in with a expired license from another state. And so Jeannie asked me, can we provide them? I said, no, we're not going to, they've got to, I don't care if they go to the B&B and just get an ID card, not like, they've got to have something because one, you're showing us proof of who you are, an expired license from, what was it, Colorado?
Yeah,
Or-
yeah.
And
Florida,
so
Texas, somewhere, I don't know, it's expired.
we're not gonna do, but if I know that you lived at 123 Elm Street, and then you moved, and now you live at, 24 West Main Street, here within the township, I go ahead and do it, because I feel that, my response to the State Board of Accounts would be, we kept the money within Addison Township. It's just unfortunate that they didn't update their property.
But a lot of people, don't, and that would be something that maybe when people apply with you, or, and if we were having a budgeting session, we could say, when you have extra money, make sure that this is something that's updated. Not just for in case you need assistance, but in case you get pulled over, in case you're in an accident. Like this is your ID, and there are, I'm telling you, 75% of the people I deal with do not have the correct address on their driver's license.
Right.
And probably 50% don't know where their social security card is.
And then also 50 or 60% don't realize where their lease agreement is, because
Yes.
we have to have a lease agreement, okay? And lease agreements can be multiple pages. I look at page 1, and I look at the signature page, and I wanna know, what is your monthly rent? Not what you owe, what is your monthly rent? And then that, if they qualify for assistance, that's the benchmark that we use for assistance. You may, the tenant may owe you $1,200, but if the rent is like $800 and they're behind, I'm gonna look at that $800, we're gonna do half. And so then you as a landlord says, you owe me $1,200, you only got $400 coming from the trustee's office, where am I gonna get my other $800? And then you might say to me, thanks, but no thanks, we're going to evict. Okay, that's your right. But if I provide assistance to them, you can't evict them for 30 days.
And that is something that I tell them, especially if they're like, oh, I'm being threatened with eviction. Well, you need to talk to your landlord and let them know that we're gonna send X amount, and they're gonna accept it, they're gonna sign a paper, and within that, it says that we're gonna accept this $400 and we're not going to evict for 30 days. If you are in eviction, and you've already gone to court, and there's a judgment, and the judgment is you have to be out by a certain time, we're not going to pay on that. Because we could helping someone who's in a stay in home. Also, if the judgment is you have to pay by the 10th, and you can stay, but you have to pay by the 10th, like James said, we're gonna say, okay, you have 400 coming from us, where's the rest coming from? Do you have a plan? And I always tell the constituents when I talk to them on the phone, the trustee's gonna wanna know your plans. He's gonna ask me what your plan is. So when I'm gonna need you to think about it and tell me what your plan is. Well, and I'm gonna get a job isn't gonna be helpful, because you're gonna work for 2 weeks before you get money. And a lot of times I try to call landlords and I'm like, okay, what are you thinking? Because a lot of times what I hear from landlords is, oh, we're not renewing your lease anyway. But the people don't know it. They just think that they're getting evicted. And they don't pay. They don't realize once they pay, they're out anyway. So, and not only with rent, but also with utilities that we would help with. If it's disconnected, we cannot pay it. We can only pay stuff that's on. So waiting until 2 days before they're gonna disconnect it is not helpful.
No, and on utilities, you all can help your tenants, if you will. If they know 60 days, and 60 days prior that they didn't have the money for their utility, don't wait till it gets to the disconnect, because once Duke Energy sends guys out to disconnect it, we've had people think that the trustee can write a check and give the check to the guy shutting off the power. It doesn't, they won't accept anything from us. You know, I mean, and the order's already been made, so if you know that you're gonna be in a situation where I can't pay my light bill next month, you know, because I got laid off and it's already, you know, the 24th of July, come to us before it's actually disconnected.
I'm also gonna ask them, did you call Duke? Did you call Rush Energy? Because ultimately, they're the ones who flip the switch. You know, we can help you pay the bill, but they do have programs in place. And like today, and we got our Duke bill at the office, and there was a little handout in it, and it talks about things that you can do. Again, if we were to have a budgeting session, these are just some things you can tell your tenants. If they can, there's the thermometer, there's a smart thermometer that they can get, and they get money back on their bill. You can also have it where they adjust it a certain, you know, you keep it at a certain temperature, and Duke can change it. If it's a really high energy day, they can lower the temperature in there, and it goes money back on their bill. But some people, you know, if they're, you know, not really moving around, they're kind of sedentary in their house, they probably don't need it 60 degrees in there. So it would be okay to fluctuate that thermometer. But there are some things that Duke can offer to help, so you don't even get to the place where, you know, you're needing us. Not that we don't want to provide, because we will if we can, but we would rather people be self-sufficient.
Yeah, we do, and one of the things that we really want and try to publicize, talk with your landlord, talk with your utility provider, you know, see what types of things are available. Don't just wait till it gets to a crisis. But unfortunately, people wait till it gets to crisis and then they contact our office, and then they're disappointed when we can't do exactly what they would like for us to be able to do. So,
I feel like we kind of, give them several options. I always give them the option, you know, you can do stuff online, or you can make an appointment. Most of the time, when I make an appointment for someone to come in my office, 4 out of 5 times they do not show up, they don't call no show.
yep.
So I'm like, hey, if it's inconvenient for you and you don't have transportation, send me your stuff, and I'll call you and we'll do the application online, because transportation is a real thing. I get that. Also, people think that they can quit their jobs and have assistance. And if you have voluntarily or done something to be fired, you quit or be fired in 30 days, we can't assist you. And
Termination of employment is grounds for denial of your application.
And it is unfortunate, and it's anyone in the household. So wife may be still working and, you know, just needs help, husband got fired, it's household. Everything is household, so that would deny their household.
And interestingly enough, our budget that we have to put together every year, we have, the lion's share of our budget is township assistance, to provide assistance to individuals. We have not utilized all of our township funds in the last 3 years.
Minimum, yeah, 3 years.
You know, and so, it's not that we don't have the money, but they've gotta meet Jeannie at least halfway and do their due diligence. They've gotta provide the lease. You know, they've got to have contacted their landlord. And they have to ensure that if we provide assistance, they're still going to be able to live there. And as Jeannie poses the question, now, how are you going to get by in August? What's your plan for August and September? So it's not that we don't want to assist, but we want the best utilization of the township dollars as possible. And that's helping people. You know, I'm not real crazy about pauper burials, but if somebody dies and there's no insurance, and there's nothing, family doesn't have anything, we'll do that. But I'd rather spend that $400 on somebody who's living and needs, you know, utility assistance or rent or mortgage assistance. And what do we do about 4 cremations a year?
4 to 6, depending on, you know, because there is always someone who's had someone pass away, and the funeral home, sometimes our $400 is all they get. So, that $400 could put a household in jeopardy of paying rent. That could, you know.
Right.
Again, if we were having a budget session, we would talk about, you know, end of life planning.
And Jeannie does a phenomenal job with